Welcome to the week ahead, bringing you key developments likely to impact Sri Lanka this week. Headlines: Sri Lanka exploring $1 billion debt for nature swap deal. Supreme Court says tax bill not inconsistent with Constitution. China Development Bank officials in the country to visit funded projects. Mechanism for Russian tourists to make payments in rupees to come into effect. Reuters is reporting, citing sources familiar with the discussion, that Sri Lanka is in engagement for a debt for nature swap deal of up to $1 billion. Such talks first commenced at the UN Climate Change Summit in Egypt. This type of swap involves a funder purchasing the foreign debt of a debt-distressed country, converting that debt into local currency, and the debtor country using those proceeds to fund conservation activities. Given the current emphasis on climate conservation, interest in such instruments is gaining in significance. Many of the tax measures in the interim budget will come into effect, with the Supreme Court ruling that the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill is not inconsistent with the Constitution. The changes to the personal income tax will come into effect only from December. However, several other taxes will come into effect immediately. They include the increased standard corporate income tax rate of 30%, removal of concessionary rate on select industries, capital gains tax of 30%, and the withholding tax on interest, service fees and dividends, and rent over 100,000 rupees a month. Officials from the China Development Bank are in the country. They are holding discussions on projects financed by the bank and their way forward. Shehan Samasinghe, State Finance Minister, speaking to the Daily Mirror, stated that the relevant projects financed by the officials were appraised and also visited. The visit is seen as an important development as Sri Lanka engages China to restructure the $7 billion owed to them. From Tuesday, a platform enabling Russian tourists to make payments in rupees will come into effect. This is initiated by the Sri Lankan Embassy in Moscow and is a banking cooperation between the People's Bank in Sri Lanka and the National Investment Industrial Bank in Russia. As such, Russian tourists will be able to remit funds to the People's Bank prior to their travel and receive debit cards on their arrival to make payments in the country. Since the resumption of Russia flights to Sri Lanka in October, there has been a significant increase in tourists' arrivals. And that's a wrap for this week. Join us next time for more key developments as we keep you informed of the week ahead.